all of a sudden you end up with a team who's also making those similar decisions, who also has that same sort of culture. And all of a sudden, you don't just have one person driving the bus, you have the whole team. You got a whole team of people who are working harder than the owner in another business. And now you just start to lap the competition. And now you do start to get those vacations. And now you can take more time off. Because even when you're not there, that machine and that culture, it's still running.
I can see the whole wide world with these two eyes, and I can be whoever I wanna be, 'cause it's my life.
Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of Ask Spurrell CPA. Today, Edmonton Business Coach, we're talking about do the things you don't like. Again, Edmonton Business Coach talking about do the things you don't like. So, May, you've got some experience in martial arts. Did you like every part of the training, every step of the way?
No, there was times where I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why do I continue to do this? But at the end, it does come in a benefit. Now I got my third dan, so
that's third black belt. I had to ask her the other day what the heck that meant. But
yeah.
So is there a particular drill that is just like, oh
my goodness, burpees. They strengthen your core, but they are a pain to do.
Yeah, for sure. So the quote that we have here today on this one, it's from Jocko Willing, retired Silver Star Navy SEAL officer, founder of Echelon Front Consulting, and author of Extreme Ownership. And he said, the test is not a complex one. When the alarm goes off, do you get out of bed or do you lie there in comfort and fall back asleep? If you have the discipline to get out of bed, you win. You pass the test. If you are mentally weak for that moment and you let the weakness keep you in bed, you fail. Though it seems small, the weakness translates to more significant decisions. But if you exercise the discipline, that too translates to more substantial elements of your life. And the statistic that we have are, 50% of all Canadian small businesses go out of business in the first 5 years. And often people, when they get into business with the unrealistic expectation that starting a business will make their life immediately easier. So not over the long term, but immediately easier. So May, what are the questions these business owners should be asking?
They should ask, should you plan on working the same number of hours when you start a business?
You should not. There are a whole heap of things that you have to do when you start a business that the customer doesn't want to pay you for. They don't want to pay you for your systems and processes. They don't want to pay you for doing the content for your website. On average, entrepreneurs work 63% more than their employee counterparts. So you should not plan on working the same number of hours, and you certainly should not plan on working less hours. You should plan on working more hours when you start a business.
Should you plan on sleeping in when you start a business?
No, you should not plan on sleeping in because the day gets busy, and it's been proven, most successful entrepreneurs are waking up at 6 a.m. or earlier, simply because that's the time when people aren't interrupting you. That's the time when you can actually work on your business and not in your business. So if you're starting a business to sleep in, you're probably going to have a reactive business that, you're sleeping in, but that business is going to drive you absolutely nuts when you're running it because you're never going to get on top of it.
Should you plan on having a schedule that you can rearrange on a whim?
Yeah, people think that I'm going to start a business because that is a flexible schedule. I can choose when I want to work. And you can choose when you want to work, but you can't change that decision on a whim. So if you started out 2 weeks ago saying, I'm going to have this customer meeting at that time, you have to have that customer meeting at that time regardless of how you feel that day, because the customer isn't going to take it too kindly if you reschedule them. They might do it once or twice, but eventually that will creep in. They'll start rescheduling on you too if you do that. Same with your teammates. If you want to actually grow a business and grow your team, you can't just say, I'll be in at 8 a.m. and then not show up until 10. You have to actually do what you're going to say as well to your team. So it's not just about the customers, it's how you interact with the team. So although you can choose when you work as an entrepreneur, you can't change that decision on a whim.
Should you plan on making the same amount of money when you start a business?
No. Almost every business, I would say 90% of the businesses that we see, when someone goes from being an employee to starting their own business, they make less for the first year, 2 years, 3 years even, and that's common. There are some anomalies out there that start making more upon starting their business, but that's not the norm. The norm is they make less for a year or two before they start making more than they would otherwise as an employee. So if you're thinking you're going to start your business and immediately increase your income, statistically that's not going to be the likely outcome.
And should you plan on taking the same amount of vacation when you start a business?
No, it is going to be very, very difficult to get away for extended periods of time in the initial outset. I think I had my business for 4 years before I took a week's vacation. And now I have some, down the path where at some point I'm going to get 10 weeks vacation per year. And that's my dream. And it's very, it's coming to fruition at this point. But you remember, for 4 years, I didn't take a full week. And if I was working somewhere, I would have got 3 or 4 weeks vacation. So you don't start your business, because it's going to be very difficult to get away from the customers who are depending on you, because you don't have those systems and processes built in to the teammates who are, running the organization when you're away, who haven't been with you that long. It's going to be very difficult to get away initially when you start your business.
Will you have additional administrative tasks when you start a business?
Oh yeah, so then you're going to run into all these tasks that you weren't sure that you were doing. I remember when I started the accounting firm, I didn't know how to, know how long it was going to take to set up all the templates. All the templates of the financial statements and the engagement letters and the representation letters and the firm letterhead, all of those templates that you had and all those admin tasks, I didn't know how to do them. In fact, I didn't know how to e-file a tax return, because although I've been doing tax returns for years, there was an admin department that always batch filed the tax returns, got the e-file confirmation slips, and simply going through the process to get the e-file number wasn't too incredibly complex, but it was extremely time. It was a lot of time involved in actually getting all those things done. So there are likely, if you're moving from a technical role to a business owner role, you are likely going to drastically underestimate the amount of administrative work that goes on in the company that you're in currently.
Should you be willing to do maintenance type tasks as a business owner?
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you're an accountant or a lawyer or a plumber. If you have that office, that business location, heck, even if it's just a vehicle and arranging that vehicle, there's going to be maintenance type tasks that are so far out of your professional expertise, but you're going to have to do them, because if you don't do them, the cost, a lot of the time the costs to do them are going to be exorbitantly high, and sometimes even it's just that level of organization that you have to figure out what you want that office to look like, and to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty and actually to make that happen. It's probably going to happen the way you want. It's easier for ask someone to make it bigger once you have it the way you want. But there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to do simply because of cost, or because you want to make sure it's the right setup for your business. So you can't be afraid of doing maintenance type tasks at your business location, especially when you're a new business.
When you start out with a small team, will you likely have to do more grunt work?
Yeah, so there's a lot of work that you might do. Again, if you're coming from a technical role, you're probably coming from a technical role where you were the top dog, so to speak. You were one of the more experienced person. So you were doing the higher level work, but all of a sudden when you start your business, you're going to have a smaller team, and you're going to have to go back to doing some of that grunt work that you might have been doing a few years ago, but then since then you've outgrown, because you're only going to have so many team members, and they're not going to have even if you have a couple team members, they're not going to have a lot of training. So you're going to have to help them with some of that grunt work, some of that lower level work. That's going to be a natural byproduct of starting a business, is you're probably going to have to go back and do some of the work that you weren't doing currently.
Is your competition likely trying to avoid the same task that you don't like?
Yeah, so you got to remember all those things that you don't like to do. You don't want to set up your office the right way and do the maintenance tasks of the office. You don't want to do some of that lower level grunt work. In which case, your competition is thinking the same thing. Their office looks disorganized. They completely abdicated that grunt work to a junior level employee, and they're getting it wrong. So all of those things, they all add up. They're going to go and take that vacation right when they start their business in the first 6 months. So all those things that you don't want to do, remember, your competition doesn't want to do them either. So if you do them, you're immediately just going to get the upper hand on them.
What is the value of showing your team that you're willing to do tasks you don't like?
So if you can show the team that you're willing to do tasks they don't like, they start, they're not going to resent when you ask them to do tasks that they don't like either. They realize that it's part of the process. It's a means to an end. They're going to have more buy-in. They're going to think that, hey, we're all in this together. Sometimes we do tasks that we want to do. Sometimes we have to do the tasks that are, a little bit more difficult or a little bit more monotonous or a little bit more challenging. But they realize it's part of the process. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're the CEO or the person who just started yesterday. Occasionally you're going to get to do things that you like, but sometimes you're going to have to do some of the things that you don't like to do. You're going to have to do the burpees. You're going to have to do the burpees of the business if you want to succeed.
Will instilling the culture in the team eventually make your life easier?
Yeah, so you might think, well, why do I want to do this? This sounds terrible. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. But if you can set that tone, and you can set that tone in your business for, it's not a short time. You have to set it for years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years type of thing. All of a sudden you end up with a team who's also making those similar decisions, who also has that same sort of culture. And all of a sudden, you don't just have one person driving the bus. You have the whole team. You got a whole team of people who are working harder than the owner in another business. And now you just start to lap the competition. And now you do start to get those vacations. And now you can take more time off. Because even when you're not there, that machine and that culture, it's still running. People are still operating at that same level. So, that buy-in, although it's a sacrifice, it actually really just accelerates on how much freedom that you're going to have in the future. So I think that's what we have here today. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, we look forward to any comments that you have so we can respond back and use your feedback for future videos. And please hit the like and subscribe button so we continue to deliver you tips on how to beat the odds at business. Thanks very much.